Welcome into Steelers Talk. On today's show, ESPN has put out their official roster projection for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there were 5 names on that list that didn't make the 53-man roster that were a big surprise to me. I'm going to be revealing those 5 names here in just a second, but first, make sure you click that subscribe button because when those cuts eventually happen here at the end of the preseason, we are going to have you covered here on the show. We're going to be covering everything every single day, from training camp to the preseason games, all the way leading up to week 1 of the 2023 season, where we're going to be having our first live watch party. So do me a favor, join our family today here at Steelers Talk and click that subscribe button. Then the first surprising name that was not on the Steelers' 53-man roster projection from ESPN was wide receiver Hakeem Butler, who has really been playing well during OTAs and mandatory minicamp. He's going into training camp with a lot of momentum. He had a fantastic season in the XFL this past year with 51 receptions and almost 600 yards and 8 tutties in 10 games. And he's somebody that I think could absolutely end up making this final 53-man roster. In my Steelers roster projection, I had him making it, but this is what ESPN had as the wide receiver room for the Steelers this year. He has Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, Calvin Austin III, Gunnar Olszewski. Don't see that one happening personally, but I guess it could happen. And then Miles Boykin, the special teams ace. So what do you guys think about Hakeem Butler heading into the season? Will he make the final roster here for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me a yes or give me a no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. Take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or by giving me a no down there in the comments section. For me, my answer is yes. I put him on my final official Steelers roster projection for a reason. I think that he's a really talented receiver, and he can play that true X position that George Pickens is going to be playing this year. And if something, God forbid, happened to George Pickens, I want a guy like Hakeem Butler with the ball skills that he possesses down the field to be on the roster. Plain and simply, that's my answer. It's definitely possible that he doesn't make the roster because he is a bit raw, but I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in Steelers training camp this year. And then maybe the most surprising name that wasn't on the ESPN projection was Chandon Sullivan, who of course was signed in NFL free agency on day 3 of the NFL draft. And for many people, he's expected to be the starting slot corner. Got a lot of first-team reps in OTAs and minicamp, and ESPN doesn't even have him making the roster. And he's not the only surprising corner to not make the roster. They also have James Pierre getting cut, somebody that played quite a bit for the Pittsburgh Steelers last season, had 29 tackles and that awesome interception against the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football, right, and 4 pass breakups as well. And listen, Pierre's not the best corner in the world. He's not a starter, but I think that he's a very solid backup that's been in this system. He knows what's expected of him, and I think he's probably going to end up making the final roster. But this is what ESPN projected for the Steelers cornerback room. He's got Patrick Peterson, Joey Porter Jr., Levi Wallace, Corey Trice Jr., and then Elijah Riley as their slot corner. I mean, I think Elijah's done a really nice job in OTAs and minicamp. He's making waves heading into training camp. But, you know, are you really going to put Riley on this roster over Chandon Sullivan? I suppose it's possible, but I don't think it's very likely that both Chandon Sullivan and James Pierre get cut. I just don't see that happening. Personally, I think that Elijah Riley could very well make the roster, but I just don't think it's going to be at the expense of Chandon Sullivan and James Pierre. That's just my opinion. But let me know who you think is more likely to be cut this year. Do you think it's the slot cornerback, Chandon Sullivan? Type CS if you think it's him, or if you think it's James Pierre, type JP for me down in the comments. For my answer here, I think the more likely to be cut is James Pierre. And plain simply, the reason for that is Chandon Sullivan, they brought him in for a very specific role, to play slot corner, to play dime back, right? He has a very specific role, and they were playing him in that role with the first teamers just in OTAs and minicamp. For him to not make the final roster would be a big surprise to me. And although I think James Pierre has a pretty decent shot at making the roster himself, I do think he's more likely to get cut at the end of the day. Then another kind of surprising name was another free agency pickup this year, nose tackle Breiden Fehoko. Now, I don't think Fehoko is like a superstar nose tackle or anything like that, okay? I think that he's fine. He's not great. I think that he's a replacement level nose tackle. That's what he is at this point at 6'3", 300 pounds. But they had the Steelers sticking with 7 defensive linemen this year, and Fehoko wasn't on that list. Right, you got Cam Hayward, you got Larry Ogunjobi, you got Keanu Benton, right? Those are going to be your starters. Then they're keeping Montravius Adams as backup nose tackle. They have Isaiah Loudermilk in there, DeMarvin Leal, and Armand Watts, but no Breiden Fehoko. So that surprised me a little bit. I think that I would probably go with Fehoko over Loudermilk at this point, but I suppose that's close. Now, would it shock me if Fehoko gets cut this year? No, it really wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. He hasn't been a super effective player in this league for a while, or really ever, to be quite frank with you. But I would probably take him over Loudermilk at this point. I think that Isaiah is somebody that's just an okay player, and it's probably going to be a battle between those two to see who gets that 7th spot on the Steelers' defensive line depth chart for 2023. Then another surprising name here, this time on the offensive line, Kendrick Green. All right, third-round pick, former third-round pick, athletic player, athletic guy, didn't play a single snap last year. And, they've been trying him out at guard and at center. He hasn't thrived at either. And it's certainly looking like it's possible that Kendrick Green won't end up making the final roster because the Steelers aren't going to wait forever for this guy. So this is who ESPN has as the projected interior offensive lineman. You got Sayamalu, Cole, and Daniels as your starters, and then you got Kevin Dotson and Nate Herbig as a very solid pair of backups there. James Daniels is somebody that can play center. So if Mason Cole gets hurt, you can move Daniels over there to center and put Dotson at guard, right? So there's some flexibility there. So you don't really need a true center like Kendrick Green on the roster technically. But, I look at a guy like Kendrick Green, and this is going to be a big training camp for him, man. He's got the athletic ability to be a pretty decent backup player in this league. However, he just hasn't been able to put it together with the footwork, with the technique, with everything that has been going on over the last couple of seasons. It just hasn't been good enough. If it continues to be that way and he continues to underperform according to the Steelers standards, he is going to get cut, and it really is do or die time for the former third-round pick. So I want to know down there in the comments section, who is a surprising Steelers player that could get cut this season? Let me know who you guys think could be that player down there in the comments. Can't wait to see some of the names that you guys have cooked up for me down there in the comments. And if you want some more Steelers content here on Twitter, go ahead, or there on Twitter, go ahead and give me a follow at Sperry_Yens. I have channel updates on there. I've got video updates on there, all these different things on there. So if you want some Steelers-specific content, go to @Sperry.Yens or _Yens. And then for my general NFL content, you can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Sperry. I'm currently doing a NFL QB list, ranking every single quarterback in the National Football League. Kenny Pickett's going to be coming up here pretty soon. So if you want to see my breakdown of Kenny Pickett, go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter as well. Really do appreciate all the support, guys. I will see you guys later. And as always, here we go, Steelers.